to the Kawartha Small Business Podcast, where we believe the Kawarthas can be the most thriving region in Canada for small business. I'm Brian Rump from Profit Coach.
And I'm Matt Garrity of Matty G Digital.
And before we get started, head over to kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca/checklist and download Matt and Brian's marketing checklist for Kawartha small businesses. All right, Matt, today we are talking about a topic that's kind of fun, means a couple of different things for anyone listening, but I think it's something that everyone's always looking for, and that is unicorns or rainmakers. So we hear the buzzword unicorn a lot. I'm hesitant to put it in the title because I know that it means something different to certain communities. But for business communities, it's that outlier business or outlier person who's like really amazing at everything. And I think a lot of businesses are looking for that unicorn to come work for them. They want that person who's going to work really hard. They're going to be super skilled. They're going to help fix their business, get it on track. They're that magic employee who's just going to make everything better and grow their business. And they're going to do it for a really low, reasonable wage.
Yeah, and in typical fashion, we did not prepare for this. I used to have my laptop in front of me while we recorded these. So like we'd hop on the link and then I would see the title right before Brian introduced it. And that would be my introduction to the podcast. And now it's like we're doing a different setup and I don't have my laptop in front of me. And I was like, oh man, what's this going to be? Unicorns. I'm like, oh great. I'm going to dunk on business owners and tell them like what a ridiculous job they're doing hiring people. But I don't want to be like that negative, but you already took it there, which is great.
Well, you did come up with the topic idea and you did schedule it
That's
months
awesome.
ago. So I think we could take it whichever way you want. And I think I don't want to use it as a dunk. I introduce it that way to agitate the problem because I think sometimes people are unaware that that's what they're looking for. I know I've definitely done it to a certain extent. I think you're always looking for a person who is going to be sort of super amazing in their potential. I think if you naturally see people's potential, that's another way you could maybe see that and get mistaken by it. I know that's my thing. You know, I've helped facilitate a lot of former students get hired, a lot of young people who in interviews are like, oh, I can just see their potential. And then you kind of get surprised that they're not at their potential yet. And that's just, I think, a dose of reality sometimes is that, yeah, they have that potential, but it's going to take 5 years to get to like the next step. And then it might be 10 years before they get to where they really are good. And, in the meantime, you kind of can set yourself up sometimes for disappointment, or it helps you avoid solving maybe some of the core things in your business that a unicorn's just not going to solve, or you're not necessarily going to find that person.
Yeah, hiring people is very tricky, but I do think that the people making the hires are often expecting the unicorns. I don't think business owners understand that that's what they're looking for, and I don't think they're saying in a meeting like, let's go find a unicorn.
Yeah.
Like, are you ever going to find a unicorn? Probably not, because like that unicorn probably is doing their own thing, or they're probably being paid fairly well somewhere else, or they're in a situation that they're extremely happy about.
Yeah, and I think they definitely exist, and you're right, they could be working for someone. They could be doing their own thing. I think they might be happy where they are. I think you can get lucky in sometimes those people are underappreciated for a long time, and then they are looking for other sort of things where I think you could set up to be a business that's going to attract that outlier, and you're able to hire them. But it's hard to count on as a strategy. So when they exist, you hire them, you make things great for them, and you take advantage of whatever they can do for as long as you have them. But it's not a good long term strategy to just be looking for that magic person.
No, and I don't know if the way I've hired people or worked with people before is the best way to do it. But what I've always done is I will usually just give anybody some work to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Because I know I don't know how to train them. But I think that's the problem with a lot of business owners is they think that they know how to train people, or they think that, okay, I'm just going to drop someone into a situation and see how they figure it out. It's different for me because everyone I work with are contractors or freelancers. It is their responsibility to do what they're good at. I'm changing that now though, because do I want a unicorn? Probably not either, but I do want people that just know what to do. I don't have the time or maybe even the ability to be mentoring and training and all those things. I don't know if there's anything wrong with saying that, but I think I'm very upfront with it, or I'm not expecting, okay, I'm going to hire like a complete novice off the street and then expect them to figure it out on their own. No, I'm not going to do that. I want to hire someone or work with someone that already knows how to do something. Like I want to work with someone that's already worked at least a little bit on LinkedIn ads or an event marketing person, for instance. I'm can give them, I'm looking for people that like align with my values and like share similar marketing beliefs. But beyond that, I'm not terribly concerned about like every detail of their work. How do they dress? All those types of things. Like we hire people for their personality. We hire them for their attitude and hopefully depending on like if they have experience or not. But I think that's a big problem too, is like telling people exactly what they should or should not be doing when you hire them too. It takes away the essence of why you're hiring someone.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're hiring for, and you need to know what that is. And it was neat. I was reading. I knew this episode was coming up this month, and it just popped out on Twitter. Someone had a really good sort of thread on what they thought sort of the definition of unicorn was in business. And they were saying there's people who are really great at strategy, ideas, high level of stuff, kind of designing. And then there's people who are amazing at doing what they're told to do. They'll get the work done. And the unicorns were the very rare breed who could do both.
Mm.
And what they had learned is they have to be very strategic with the skills of who they're hiring. And you basically can't expect people to both figure out what to do sometimes and to do it. Those are a little bit rare. Again, every business is a little bit different. And I learned something neat about it because there's people I've worked with who are amazing at following processes. They will take a binder and they will follow step by step through that whole thing diligently. But if you ask them to create that binder, they wouldn't happen. Or if you were to like, hey, here's this binder, find a better way to do it, they have zero interest in doing that. So it's really hard if you are that business. And I think, where I don't want to dunk is like it's really hard in small business because you're a small business owner, you're trying to grow your business. Usually you can't afford to hire, say, a headquarters of 8 people with 8 different skill sets that you need. So you're looking for people who can fit like ideally all 8 of those things that you need and just do it all. But it's very rare that you could find someone who kind of knows what to do, can strategically direct it, and then execute on every detail of that. So really you have to piece it off a little bit and find people either part-time, fractionally. You just mix the skill sets a little bit and hope they work together. but you're not going to find that one person who can just do all those things.
You know what the problem really is, and to bring it intentionally back to themes that we've talked about throughout the podcast, it's a who problem.
Yeah.
Business owners don't know how to train people, and they shouldn't, right? Like, they are good at what they're good at. They're good at what they bring value to. Maybe they should make sure that they have someone hire, or they hire someone that shares similar-ish values and then can mentor those people. But business owners don't know how to train people, right? They need to find a who that can literally train people in a business. Maybe this is a business idea.
Yeah.
Of like being like dropped into a business and then trying to like put together a training process or manual for people. So let's imagine Matty G Digital needs to hire a new marketer. Just overall, I need a unicorn. I want to be someone that can do everything.
Yeah.
I should not just be able to try to find a unicorn on my own, or I should not expect that I can hire someone right out of school that will be a unicorn. I should be able to call up so-and-so's training, and they come in, they do like an onboarding with me, they talk to me, they put together a training pro. This is a really good idea. They put together a training.
Yeah, I think you're gonna keep going.
Okay,
I'm gonna talk.
You're gonna dunk on me, but like, they're gonna put together like a training program. Maybe this person, some people like reading stuff, some people like videos. This is like the most expensive business I've ever come up with.
How much do you think that would cost? And I think that
it would be outrageous. Well, then maybe there's a way to compromise on that. Maybe there's a way to have like whatever their process is. Maybe it's all written, right? I think that's an interesting idea. But anyways, to pull it all back, it's a who problem.
It is a who problem. And what I love about this is it's that mix of skill sets and trying to figure that out for your business. And it could be everyone we hire is a visual learner. So here's these visual aids, or, here's reading. You have to be able to read this stuff, and it's written down. I go back to when one of my favorite questions that I ask in every interview that I ever do is, what was the last book you read for fun? And either you get the deer in the headlights look, which is like code for, oh no, I don't read, or you get someone who like wants to tell you about their books. And when you're working in, for example, I worked at the bank in Bank Montreal. Every bank's the same. There are policies and procedures like crazy. For anything you want to do, you can go hunting, find out how to do it. And yet they would sometimes hire people who were like, oh, I don't read stuff. Yeah. And then they would be angry that they couldn't figure out how to get things done, which is just a giant skill gap because you're set up to be a place where you have to read and figure things out. Other businesses are like, oh, we don't write stuff down. Like, you have to learn it visually, or you have to see somebody do it. And we work with our hands. Like, this is how we do things here. And, you learn that way, right? If you were a chef and you're hiring people to work with you, like, you have to learn how we do things here because we need consistency in our food. So it would be a tactile type of program. But it is finding those who's of like, who can capture what we do, who can train what we do, who can fill these things in, and then knowing how to hire those people, which are all hard problems. And like, recruiters exist for that.
That's another job. You need a who specific to hire.
And these things can cost a lot of money. And if your business isn't structured where that's an investment you can make, it just doesn't work. But you have to, the choice isn't just do nothing, or the choice isn't, well, I have to grow my business. I just need to hire a person who can do everything and, is happy making like below market wages. Like, you have to find somewhere in there to either hire someone to do it or get better at it yourself.
Yeah, and it's a generational thing too, probably. It's boomers these days, right? Yeah. Like, they grew up a certain way. They were given a certain rate. They can't believe the cost of things now and what people are making, and that kids these days don't want to work.
Yeah.
And they didn't have training. They were thrown to the wolves, and boomers expect everyone to go the same path that they were. They don't want to change. They don't want to evolve. They don't want the world to change. They want to think back on 200 years ago when the country was great, right?
Yeah.
Gen Z doesn't want that. Millennials, we don't even want that. But like the younger generations want that even less. So like they get to a job where they're paid nothing and they're thrown to the wolves. And I don't know if not to pick on like a line cook or something, but you mentioned that. But like a line cook probably thrown on the line the first 10 minutes that he's there.
Yeah.
Gen Z is like, forget this. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
They go home that day. They don't show up ever.
Yeah.
I remember when I worked at, can I say the grocery name? Store?
Oh, yeah.
Why not? It's a big one. It's our best friend, the Westons.
Nice.
Yeah, I worked at Loblaws when I was a kid. And on my first day, I showed up. I was not there 90 seconds when they're like, grab that container of garlic paste and grab those breads and put the stuff on it. That was it. And I did that for the next hour. And then people were coming up to me at the counter like, where's this? Where's that? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I've been working here 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But like that's how most businesses train people too. Like any business almost that I've ever worked at, it's like you're just kind of thrown to the wolves.
I asked the boss once, this was for a promotion at the bank, and they were like, I was like, can you tell me about the training program? And he just laughed. It was like sink or swim. And like that was actually, he wasn't even lying. Like it was like, oh, if you can guess how to do your job, you can keep it. Like it was crazy. And even there, like when I first started, there was some basic training, and yeah, other staff were like visibly angry that I was getting training because they never got training back in their day. But if you're a small business, like you have to get rid of that attitude.
Yeah.
Like I've seen where there are businesses who are like, well, the way we do things here, we'll toughen you up. But the labor market isn't so great that people have no other options. So they're going to go places where they're trained. They want to know how to do things properly. I think a lot of those kids do work hard when they're engaged. And if you're going to grow your business, you have to find ways to solve those things and move from the mentality of like maybe doing it to like building and growing your business. If you're choosing to do that, if you just want to be a guy who's good at thing and wants to do that thing more, that's a way to run your business. But if you want to take the leap and grow it, you're not going to find that magic person who can just do everything for you. And if you can, you hire them and you pay them well and you keep them around. Otherwise, it might be a multiple contractors or projects or figuring out how to do some of those things.
Sink or swim is scary, but it's the reality of how I think, I want to say over 90% of businesses do it.
Yeah.
What did you do at the bank? Like, what was your job? Like, what were you supposed to do?
Oh, so my job at the bank, I had a few different jobs, but my first one was like financial service manager. So I opened bank accounts, I did credit cards, loans.
That's a nightmare.
GICs,
that's scary, right?
Mortgages. We used a DOS-based program. So like if you were coming in and like I did like my first day, it's like, okay, this person's coming to apply for a mortgage. So like I had to learn what a mortgage was, all of the different things about it, how to collect and verify information, how to do an audit, so all of these, it's a lot of things that you have to learn and navigate.
I'm laughing, but it's not funny.
Yeah.
And just to show the scope of like, you're learning on your first day. You're learning. You're starting a mortgage for someone.
Yeah.
On my first day, I was spreading garlic paste on almost expired bread.
Yeah.
That's a big difference, but still, like, I'm just shocked that the more I'm thinking about this in this conversation, like, that's the standard, though. It's just grab an apron, go do this.
Yeah.
And it might be grab an apron and go put garlic paste on baguettes, or it might be grab an apron and go start a mortgage for someone. That's like awful, scary, critical things that could go on.
Oh yeah, it's so funny looking back how I remember feeling like a bit inadequate, but then it's like actually I did a really good job because I actually could do it. And my experience was different. Like some people would shadow people and do nothing for like a while. Some people was like kind of figure it out as you go. Again, different skill sets of like who can handle it and who can't. And like I remember people would be hired and it would be months before they could do any of those things on their own because they would freeze, not know what to do, and not like reading or going to find out where it said what to do.
Yeah.
And like for me, I loved learning, so I learned how to do all sorts of like just things or like different say kinds of mortgages that were kind of more specialized that you typically don't find someone in a branch now who knows how to even do it. So I liked learning and doing that type of stuff, but not everyone does like doing it. And with small businesses, it's the same. Like if you're a small business owner, you are the HR person, the marketing person, the finance person. Like you're doing all of these things, and you want someone to come in who can maybe do that for you. And you might not have any of the infrastructure in your business set up where it's even easy to tell people. Um, this is a good transition because we talk about unicorns or sometimes rainmakers. And Mike McCallowitz, author of Profit First, has a great quote, which is, "It's easier to dig a well than find a rainmaker." So if we could, transition really for like, we could talk about this in Dunk.
That's so good, though. That's such a good
what
point.
you do about it is you got to dig those wells. So, if I link this into Business Made Simple coaching, like you've got to do the things like clarify what your message is, clarify what your business mission is, because a lot of people they hire someone and they're supposed to guess what their mission is, what their objectives are, what their marketing tone should be. And then they throw them to the wolves and they're like, "Hey kid, you can do marketing for us because you're on Facebook." And then the kid just guesses and starts doing some things and they're like, "Well, that's wrong," or "You said this wrong," when they don't actually have, say, that messaging strategy or customer service stuff. I see this all the time where people just put their own assumptions on what that kid should do, right? And it's like, "Well, how come they didn't do this for me?" And it's like, well, maybe that kid didn't know that that's how you do things there. Or maybe it's an expectation of maybe a different place, but it's not how they do things there. So you have to kind of put those things in place so it's easier to train people.
And I hear that conversation a lot where people are talking about marketing and they're like, "Well, I've got someone on the desk that knows how to use Instagram, so they might be doing the social media."
Yeah.
They're like, "Well, of course it's going to suck, and of course it's not going to get done, and something's going to suffer, and you're probably going to stretch that poor kid too thin." Of like, okay, they're on the front desk, but now you're expecting them to do marketing, which is I almost dropped a great like Donald Miller line, but no one else would have gotten it. But like the left engine of your airplane. So of course, like if marketing isn't going to be firing on all cylinders, that's a lot of pressure for a kid to be doing because they know how, like they have Instagram on their phone, right? That's a lot of, there's just too much responsibility out there.
And I think that's the biggest thing when you're looking for that rainmaker or unicorn. It's so much responsibility and it's often put on someone who's not equipped for that. Even if they are skilled, like, you get somebody who comes in, maybe you think, "Oh, I'm paying them a lot of money." So it's like, okay, I'm hire this person for say $60,000, but you're putting onto them $100,000 worth of responsibility and skill. And then you're disappointed that they aren't living up to that. So it's just that reality check of like what you're doing. I look the same at the bank. Most people you see at the bank, if you see them, they are underpaid.
Yeah.
and their expectations are so high. And I think from a grand strategy, and they wouldn't say it out loud, they count on turnover. And they just hope they get that person who's really good in that job for a little while before they move on to something else.
Yeah.
I look at, I was I think a great bank employee for some reasons, but they were always disappointed because I'm not a good cold caller. And at one point, our metrics were based on calls, and it was 40 calls a week. So it was
that's a lot.
You need to make 40 calls a week, and you need to see 10 people, and you need to close $1 million worth of loans or whatever it was. And it was it was impossible for any person to actually do that, and they were just hoping they would find some people who could for a little while. And I remember thinking, man, if I could combine my skills of looking and doing all these things right, setting it up with that amazing cold call ability, I wouldn't be working at the bank for the amount that they were paying me, because that's the people who make and I've met a few in sales or different things where they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in a very niche business because they have that combination of skills. So you can't always count on that as a small business owner. So you got to dig the well.
Mm-hmm. I like that. The dig the well. Digging a well is easier than finding a rainmaker. And it basically just throws the old, kids these days don't want to work, but back on the business owner. Dig the well.
Yeah.
Find the rainmaker yourself. Make sure they're the one who's actually doing the work to do it. But it's ego also for the business owner too. They think they can maybe hire anyone, or the people would love to work here. We had great packages, and it's a great work environment. It's probably not,
and it can be.
Might be.
And part of that is maybe the training. I remember working a great high school job where they would explain what they were doing and why they were making decisions. And looking back now, I'm I would disagree with the experience I have now, but for them and their business, they were very clear about it.
Yeah.
And it was great because I just learned a lot, and then I knew what to do when they weren't there. I wouldn't have to ask a million questions because I knew how they would do things, which was good. I think too, if you do have something that can be easily repeatable and trained, that's the basis of your value. Yeah. So you could bring in someone you talk about first day on the job making bread or whatever. There was probably someone who had a checklist of the things that need to be made. And it was sort of they didn't need to give you 4 hours of training on garlic spread. It was grab that, here's a knife, you'll figure it out, right? So they didn't need a rainmaker for that. And that's why, all hail the Weston family, who's one of our greatest Canadian oligarchs. We just love, transferring our wealth to all the time. But, they figured that stuff out a little bit. But it's the areas of your business where, you need to put in that work to define what you're doing so that you're not reliant on that rainmaker. And there are so many business owners that I've met they're just waiting for that one person. It's if I can only hire this one person who's going to turn everything around, then things will be good. And that person's not coming. And if they are coming, it's because you've intentionally, went out and found them, and you're going to be paying them properly, and you've created maybe an opportunity for them to come in and, really help grow a business or whatever that is. But they're not showing up, and they're not going to do it for part-time minimum wage.
Yeah. Just made me think about all the job postings you see lately where it's we pay well, we've got a great work environment, great work-life balance, all this stuff. It would be fascinating to see if it would change, if it was more of an emphasis on we have an extraordinary training program that can get you to where you need to be quick and then further on. because most people are going to be using jobs as stepping stones. But
Oh, yeah.
why not address that? Why not be like the place to go if you want to be a line cook and become a better cook? But like, you start here, you're going to learn so much. We got a great training program. You're going to love it here. And then eventually you're going to move on. But like, we know that.
I think there's some businesses that do that really well. Um, Different industries know who they are, and people end up knowing who they are. If you look on Bay Street, for example, there are certain businesses, they just hire every graduate from certain programs
Yeah.
and put them through a training program, and then they keep the ones who work out. And then others just want the training program that they get, or they know that the pay is going to be terrible for 3 years, but you go through it to get the training because either you stay and make a lot or you go somewhere else and make more. So there's opportunities to do that. I can think of some small businesses that some of my family members have worked for where they like learned a lot with that small business. They were great employers. So I think you can, really stand out for that. I think the Olympia is one has been around for so long because I've heard they've done that. I haven't worked there, but met a lot of people who, work there, and, they're always their business relies on a lot of younger people and like first jobs. So they know how to treat someone on their first day and like teach them certain things, which I think is just an important thing to do.
Yeah, the first marketing job I got was at a company with a reputation for just turning people into marketers. You take them from a job where they didn't have digital marketing background, like you're a hairstylist, and the next thing you know, you're being recruited a year later, or like a good marketing job, like in-house at a different type of company. And I think they, of course, got frustrated by that. But I think there's ways that you can kind of go and embrace that too, and stop fighting it in so many ways. But it would be interesting. Like, I like that the Olympia idea makes a lot of sense. I'd be curious, like, what other businesses kind of have that sort of turnover. But like, if you look at the Olympia, like the waitresses I'm thinking of, there's a handful of them that are always there, and I think they've been there for years.
Yeah.
Same with Pie Monk, though. Like, there's a core group of waitresses there that I can remember. They've been there from like day one.
Yeah, and sometimes people end up staying.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, again, a way to stand out, to build those processes. If you can't compete on wages, then you can compete on maybe it's training or just that opportunity to grow. And then that's happening. But that's also digging the well because they know they're always looking for a kid, right? So like if you're a hardworking student, there's businesses who like always want to find who those people are and give them a shot and teach them how to do things, and they know, hey, yeah, it's minimum wage or whatever it is, but you're going to get rewarded in other ways. Maybe it's more hours or pick of jobs that you get to do. I'm thinking of a kid I know who works in a grocery store, and kind of their ascent up the ladder is more in picking their shifts and specific tasks that they're responsible for.
Nice.
Which is kind of cool. So, all right. So that's our episode for this week. Looking for these unicorns and rainmakers in business. So again, you want to dig a well. It's not easy to do, but if you can figure it out, you will build a business that is profitable. And we would love to talk to you about how to do that. You can email us at setitup@kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca.